with the month? Are you? Okay.
All right, welcome to the Bothell City Council meeting for May 19th, 2020. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide an update on the city's COVID-19 response and take care of a couple items which are routine and necessary. So before we move on to the agenda items, I'd like to acknowledge our remote meeting format. Due to the governor's extended stay home, stay healthy proclamations under 20-05, the governor's extended proclamation 20-28 regarding open public meetings, and in consideration for the health and safety of our council members, staff, and the public, tonight's meeting is being held remotely. The video of this meeting will be streamed live as well as recorded and available for later viewing on the city's YouTube channel. Because of the extensions to the governor's stay home, stay healthy proclamation, tonight's visitors' comment portion of the meeting will be in writing only. Written comments submitted in writing by 3 p.m. today have been forwarded to all city council members and will be part of the record. At this point, we'll take a moment to take roll call of the council members by position. On the call, please say here when the city clerk calls your name.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Here.
Councilmember Thompson.
Here.
Councilmember McCullough. Mayor Olson.
Here.
Councilmember McNeil.
Virtually here.
Councilmember Dorr.
Here.
Councilmember Agnew.
By voice only.
Thank you.
All right, in addition, we have the following city staff that are in attendance. City Manager Jennifer Phillips, City Clerk Laura Hathaway, City Attorney Paul Byrne, Public Works Director Aaron Leonhardt, Public Director, Parks Director Nick Stroop. So those are the only city staff that I see here. So lastly, before we begin, I'd like to reiterate some meeting guidelines. At the appropriate times, I'll be calling on each member by position number or by when you get my attention by waving, or I'll also be doing this when it's time to vote. If you want to speak, such as make a motion or second, please indicate by waving. This will help avoid the problem of two people speaking at the same time. I'll pause at the appropriate times so you can indicate that you want to speak. And remember, please to mute your microphones when not speaking. So the first item on the agenda is meeting agenda approval. Please note that tonight's agenda is final. The only adjustments considered are consent items wishing to be pulled for discussion, or those items that are routine and necessary or COVID related, that are added with approval of the majority of council present. If anyone wishes to pull an item, please indicate by waving now. All right, so first up we have a proclamation. Standing stronger together. Whereas the city of Bothell recognizes that as a community, we are looking for ways to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic to slow the spread of the virus and to minimize loss of life and other impacts. Whereas there has been a regional, national, and worldwide trend of increased discrimination, particularly against Asian American communities, since the COVID-19 virus was discovered. And whereas viruses do not recognize race, nationality, or ethnicity and have the ability to infect people from all backgrounds. And whereas hate and bias are not acceptable in our community. Whereas hate and bias are not acceptable in our community, the City Council recognizes our diversity as a key strength for the city and our character. And whereas each of us has a personal responsibility to prevent the spread of misinformation, support all fellow community members, and reject stigma, hate, and bias in all forms. And now, therefore, I, Liam Olson, Mayor of the City of Bothell, and behalf of its City Council, do hereby proclaim our renewed and ongoing support of embracing diversity and ensuring a welcoming environment for everyone in our community. As a community, responding to the challenges brought by COVID-19, we are stronger together. All right, that brings us to our third item, City Manager reports. Jennifer Phillips.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Each evening that we've been meeting, I've been providing an update on our COVID-19 response. The last meeting, we brought forward the police chief and the fire chief to share with you our response and how we're keeping staff safe and keeping our community safe. I don't have a particular update this evening. I provided a lot of information at the last several meetings. So I also invited this evening our Director of Parks and Recreation as well as our Director of Public Works to provide this similar type of update so that you get a sense and a window into the work that's been going on over the last 2.5 months, the tremendous amount of work to make sure that our communities having services delivered to them, that we're taking care of our infrastructure and our buildings and the things that we need to do to deliver all the services that we always do under extreme conditions, and how we're keeping our staff and our community safe. I did want to provide one update for the community and the council. For the June 2nd meeting, we'll be having 3 COVID-related items that are, I believe, very important for the community. One will be direction from the council on the distribution of the $1.4 million that is in CARES Act funds. So a report will be provided, and we'll be looking for direction from the council on how to distribute those funds, both reimbursement for the city's expenses, which are eligible, as well as assistance to our community. A second item will be for the $3 million that the King County has allocated towards the cities for business assistance. And so by formula, the city of Bothell will be receiving $45,000, and we'll be bringing an item forward with recommendations on how to distribute those funds into our business community. And a third item will be related to our infrastructure, talking about closing Main Street and options for that would be available to support our restaurants along Main Street. Some private property potential changes that would support our restaurants to be able to increase our outdoor dining, as well as looking at our streets for opportunities for our community. So those 3 items will be coming forward on the 2nd of June. Look forward to having that discussion and getting policy direction from the City Council. Before I turn it over, I just wanted to make the announcement that this is Public Works Week, and so I just wanted to share. This is my thank you very much, Public Works. You're the best. We have a fantastic Public Works department, and I'm delighted to have Aaron Lenhart here to share about Public Works and all the work that they're doing. So just wanted to give a shout out to our Public Works department, just a fantastic group of people, and turn it over to Aaron for an update. Thank you so much.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Council. I'm happy to be able to be here with you during Public Works Week, and the COVID pandemic has provided an opportunity for us to get creative for Public Works Week this year. I would like you and members of the community to visit the city's webpage, and we have a page on the banner that's not COVID related, related to Public Works Week, that talks about how the community can get engaged. And one of the things we're doing this year is similar to Flat Stanley. We have a flat PW pause that we have available that folks can print out, and our crews have been taking PW pause out on their rounds when they're out looking at our sewer pumps and our various other infrastructure. So I'd like you all to get engaged with that. Emily's doing a great job on the social media, trying to keep people engaged while they're at home. So yeah, happy Public Works Week. Public Works in Bothell provides a variety of services, as I think you all know, and some are more conducive to telework than others. And you'll be hearing from my counterparts in Parks about some of those things. I have to say, across the board, I am super proud of how our department has responded to this unforeseen and extraordinary event, and how they've adapted to the situation, because we've worked really hard to be prepared for the emergencies that we anticipated. We didn't anticipate something like this, and yet within days we had responses going on a variety of sides. So, and that is in spite of, we have a very strong regulatory environment that we work within, state, federal, even city regulations that day to day don't seem terribly burdensome, but when we're trying to work remotely or trying to get information to the city council or the community for input, it becomes really challenging. For example, we have a state, we need to adopt our traffic improvement plan by July 1st each year, and that requires a public hearing. So we haven't had any reprieve on that deadline. So we're trying to figure out how to get that to you in June so that we can get that done. We also do daily water quality sampling, and that requires that a person be out in the field going around to different sample stands to make sure that our water quality is what it needs to be, that we're providing to our community. So there are things that must go on. The show must go on, and it's not typical, and it requires a lot of creativity, I think. And I'm really proud of how folks have responded to that. So I'd like to spend some time this evening talking about some of the people that you don't hear from very often. So some of our unsung public works heroes. And so for that reason, I'm going to start my report with fleet and facilities, our internal services, and in particular, our custodial crew. So even before folks started going home, really, our custodial crew, and now that's made up of Clay and Donnell and Jim, our crack team of custodians. They were working hard to figure out how to keep people safe in our environments, because we have people who at the time when we first started were all still primarily in the office. So we worked with the Emergency Coordination Center to close down some of those high population areas, like some of our smaller meeting rooms, for example, and really focused on frequent sanitation of high touch areas, door handles and stair rails and things like that most people don't think about, that they're touching all the time and then promptly touching our faces, right? So they responded in an incredibly speedy fashion. And then as folks started going home, we continued to provide services to police and fire to make sure that the police building, for example, 24/7 operation, that we could continue keeping those areas sanitized for them. Also, when we had issues, when there was the potential for some COVID-19 exposure, the deep cleaning that the team implemented with help from NICS folks in parks to make sure that any potential exposure would be extremely limited. So I'm really proud that team has been, I think, a real key to how healthy our whole organization has stayed through this whole thing. So, and we don't often see them. So just kudos to them first out the gate. So once folks started going home and their schedules started freeing up, we decided to take advantage of having some space in the building that's vacated when it isn't typically. So the custodians have been working on some deep cleaning projects that are usually either have to be done overtime at night or, inconveniencing the folks who are in the building. So try to get some of these things out of the way. And you'll hear that as a kind of a common theme with some of our services. Also on the facility side, our building maintenance folks really creatively looked at things that we could shut down early on. One example is the water feature outside of City Hall. So that requires daily maintenance from our facilities building maintenance team. Not only is it a high maintenance item, but it's also a real gathering place. So in order to sort of deter people from gathering there by the fountain and in the fountain, and also to relieve some of that workload. We shut the fountain down fairly early on. We've still been able to provide critical services on the facility side. We also shut down the HVAC or the heating and ventilation systems to the various parts of City Hall, for example, that aren't currently being occupied, so that we can save city resources instead of continually heating, cooling, and lighting the various parts of the building that aren't currently occupied. So we also, on the fleet side, so other side of fleet and facilities and other internal service, we've really been focused on continuing to provide services, especially to our public safety folks, so fire and police, at the same time making sure that our staff are safe. We have 3 mechanics currently in the shop, and we have been very diligent on keeping their workstations separated so that they can be safe, and also working through protocols for our customers to make sure that we can still get their vehicles when they need maintenance, but we don't have any undue exposure between folks. So they have managed to continue on with essential repairs and also working on preventative maintenance when their time permits. So some of these things that are challenging for fleet and facilities when everybody is trying to do their work, like trying to get vehicles to do preventative maintenance, can be really hard when folks need to use them every day. So this is an opportunity to try to catch up on some of that, as well as some of the other building maintenance activities that get in other people's way. So we're focusing on that internally. Also on the fleet and facilities front, we've kept the fire station projects going. So we're actively engaged with our design build team. I really thought in the beginning that that would have to get pushed schedule-wise, but I'm really proud of the team, and between our facilities manager, Jess Ferry, and Chief Crone has been incredibly helpful, and his deputy chiefs as well. But the team we've kept meeting virtually. We're looking at designs from home, and I don't think that there has been any shift in that schedule because of COVID. So it's a tremendous lift. And I have to say that the screen that I have on my laptop isn't necessarily ideal for looking at some of these things, but still, we're getting it done. So I think that that's a really, really exciting thing to report. Also, sort of on the typically sort of unseen side, our admin team worked right from the beginning with finance and legal and the clerk's office to figure out ways that we could electronically handle things like invoices, because we need to keep paying our electric bills for our traffic signals, for example, and our street lights, and bills don't stop coming. They keep coming, and so they were really creative in coming up with ways that we can make sure that they are properly reviewed and approved remotely, so with limited need to send staff into City Hall. So we have a few admin team members who are in City Hall periodically throughout this whole thing, but they've done a great job for invoices and contracts and agenda bills and all of those things that we need to continue processing, really creative ideas. We also have one of our admin assistants Virginia, who is the lead for our ECC logistics group, and she stepped up right in the beginning and really helped police and fire and public works and parks, all of us get the PPE we need, and that was really, really helpful, that the folks, while they were responding, didn't have to worry about trying to get materials they needed at the same time. I mentioned our virtual community engagement. So Emily has been working really hard to not only for Public Works Week, but also to keep folks engaged with our projects. For example, the Park at Bothell Landing pedestrian bridge, that project's still, well, it's resumed. It stopped for a while, but we're trying to keep people engaged because sometime in the next few months, we're going to get to the point where we're closing and demolishing the old bridge. So we're trying to make sure that we're keeping the community engaged about what's happening with that so that it won't come as a surprise, and trying to figure out ways we can provide videos or, sure what's going on over there. And some of you may have seen some social media posts about the bridge structure, the logo bridge that's being built off-site. So, trying to keep folks abreast of what's happening. Also, she's been really helpful with our utility billing, and I'll cover that shortly, but really helpful getting the word out about changes there. And we're also looking at, since we've canceled Sustainamania, our sustainability event, she's also looking at ways to engage the community, and one way is going to be a virtual scavenger hunt. And she's actually engaged a lot of the sponsors who usually sponsor and participate in Sustainamania. So, yeah, as I said, the show must go on, and we're really trying to figure out ways to continue keeping that information flow going, and making ourselves available to the community so that they know that we're still here and still providing services. So then next, water sewer. So you may notice that I'm kind of going through from the not really seen to the more seen. So our water sewer crew was impacted very early on, and you may have, again, social media, you may have seen our Don't Flush Trouble messaging. We had a lot of folks who couldn't get toilet paper in the beginning, and were flushing a variety of things down the toilet, and that can be very challenging for not only our sewer system and our infrastructure, but also for folks who, if they end up with a sewer backup in their home. So we were thankfully able to really limit that, and I think a lot of that was because of that messaging, and also the frequent work of our team out there doing inspections of our lift stations and of the problem areas that we have in our system. So that was really great. And another thing that they have been doing, working with outreach, is contacting businesses about Legionella. So one thing that most of us don't think about is, with all of these businesses closed down because of COVID, their water systems, Legionella bacteria can develop in their water systems. So when they do come back, if they just turn water systems on like normal, you can have really negative impacts. So we could have Legionnaire's disease as following on the heels of COVID-19. So our team has been doing outreach to the business community, and as well as our own facilities team, to make sure that they know how to flush their systems so that they are safe when people return to work. So some of those things you don't necessarily see. Also, we have the utility billing folks in our department as well, and thank goodness that we were able to do online billing before now, because that has been a huge help, I think, with people. I want to give kudos to Jen in our utility billing team, because she worked with legal really early on to bring the policy changes to the council, to ask for relief for our ratepayers and our utility customers during this time, so that we could suspend shutoffs. And I think we even beat the governor to that action, and not charge late fees for folks who are late. And we've been working with customers, and we have, I think, 25 or so folks who are on payment plans associated with COVID. And we're just really working with them to figure out what we can do to help. And it's been just a tremendous effort on her part. And our utility billing folks are also looking at revenues and what water sales are looking like, because our largest customers are businesses, and the schools are not operating right now. So we're keeping a close eye on what that consumption looks like, and we have a rate study going on right now, looking at all of our utilities and what the COVID impacts are going to be. We were going to be bringing to the council later this year a standard rate study, but then when this started, we put the stop to that and really shifted the focus to looking at what the impacts are going to be, both expenditure and revenues, on our utilities of this situation. So, yeah, huge kudos to Jen on that front. Streets, our street crew, so more visible to everybody. This, as you probably would guess, is the busy season for the right-of-way crew. So sun's out, then it rains, and so stuff starts to grow. So we've been doing a lot of mowing in the right-of-way and other vegetation control. So we've been seeing folks out there, and of course, safely. One of the things that we did right away was really work to ensure that the folks we had coming in and working in the field would operate safely. So they have separate vehicles. They typically report directly to the field from their homes. We don't have them reporting to the buildings. When we do have things that require more than one person, we're still trying to ensure that they have safe distance. They're not going to the site together in one vehicle. They're taking separate vehicles. Now they're wearing masks, but we're able to do a lot of our work separately and with appropriate distance between folks. So, yeah, so streets, and we have a lot of customer action requests. We have a lot of folks who are home. So we have a lot of new inspections happening on a daily basis, which is helpful because we can't get out there and we can't have our eyes on everything. So it is helpful. And with more people walking, more people are seeing things and reporting things that they see. So our street crew in particular has been very active with what we call CARs, the customer action requests. Let's see. We're also going to be resuming the Safe Streets and Sidewalks, sidewalk repair and replacement activities. We're going to start next week, and we're going to resume on 88th, which was where we were hoping to get to before this struck. So now that's not right in immediate neighborhood, and it's right adjacent to the school. So we're hoping that we can make some real progress there before everything gets back up and running. On the storm and surface water side, we've been doing a lot of street sweeping, which is a really good activity for one person to do, and to keep our environment clean and to protect our environment. In addition to that, on both the private and public side, we've been doing storm drain inspections. So that activity has been able to continue, and it is really critical to the protection of our environment to make sure that we don't have things going down the storm drains that shouldn't be. And it's also one of those activities that can be hard to do when there's a lot of traffic and there's a lot of people around. So it's been a nice time for folks to be able to do these things and do some catching up. I've also been doing some engagement on the surface water side. We typically have our safe gardening workshops this time of year, and we canceled or rescheduled twice, but then decided it wasn't going to happen this year. So we're looking at maybe virtually doing the gardening workshops, or maybe just postponing to next year. But Christy and our team is really trying to keep the word out about gardening and pet waste and all those things that are even could be more problematic now with everybody home and everybody walking their dogs and gardening with chemicals. So we're trying to keep people from doing that. On the capital side, I'd really like to give kudos to Keith and Chris. There are two capital inspectors. They have been working through this. The projects that we've had going to make sure that our infrastructure is protected, that the community is protected, also that the contractors are doing what they need to do to protect their folks from COVID exposure. And that's been challenging because the rules change. And when we started this, there really weren't any. So we were kind of making things up as we went along. And but they've done an excellent job. And And that was one area that we were concerned about if we did have to pull them off, that we wouldn't have that eye on what's happening, because a lot of these things go underground, and if we don't see them when they're being constructed, we don't necessarily know what we're going to get in the long run. Also, the federal grant process has continued. This time of year, it typically happens in person, lots of meetings, lots of presentations. So we had quite a few applications for federal transportation grant funding. And I'm happy to report that we have 2 applications in for Bothell Way widening project, and they came in 3rd and 4th out of 22. So it's looking pretty good for funding for at least one of them. So kudos to Ryan on our capital team, because he's been doing the awkward presentations. I mean, not that this is awkward, but awkward presentations virtually and trying to present a project can be really challenging in the best of situations. But to do it virtually, I think, is really unusual. But he has adapted. The design on other necessary projects has continued, and we're taking a hard look. This is our budgeting and capital facilities planning season, so we're really taking a hard look at what projects absolutely have to continue, and what we can suspend, and how we can best utilize our resources, both staff resources as well as financial resources, to keep our infrastructure sound. So it's challenging, but the team is doing a really excellent job. Development review, I'd like to give some kudos for the inspectors on that side of the house as well. So Hank, Roger, and John have been, so there have been some projects that have been able to continue, essential projects since the beginning. So they've been keeping an eye on those, and also been keeping an eye on the projects that are either buttoned up because there's surface water issues. You can have erosion problems when it rains and there's a site that isn't actively under construction and nobody's keeping an eye on it. So they have really been our sort of eyes out there in the community too, finding people who weren't working on essential projects and trying to, get them to go home, to stay home and stay safe along with the rest of us. So they have been doing a yeoman's job this whole time as well. The development applications keep coming in. So we're really seeing inspections and applications coming in at a similar rate to usual. So we can keep our fingers crossed that development will continue. We're really working hard to find ways to help people keep going and carrying on. So recognizing the economic impacts associated with development, and within our regulatory constraints, of course, protecting the environment and the community, figuring out ways that we can keep folks going and get these things done, so that we don't have just a bunch of sort of half-finished projects when this is all said and done. Let's see, utilities. We have utility planning on our water side as well as our surface water side. We have plan updates that are going, so those are very good telework duties, working through reviewing plans and that sort of thing is fairly straightforward. I think that's one thing that we're finding, is that there's a lot of activities that we can do via telecommute, which I will admit to you that I love to see my people, and I really like being in the office, and I think a lot of us do. And I've been really reluctant to have telecommuting and that sort of thing go on, because it seems really hard, but I'm stunned at how much we are getting done, truly, in this time. Finally, I'd like to finish up with just a huge sense of gratitude for the Public Works leadership team. I've told them and just the entire Public Works Department, I don't know, there's no other group of people that I can imagine going through something like this with. And they are just top notch. And particular kudos to Jacqueline, who she's responsible for our operations as well as utility billing. So she's essentially responsible for about half of the Public Works Department. And the planning that they've done and all of the safety measures that they've taken, I really think is extraordinary. And I really appreciate that, because I think that that's her work, and her work with her team is another one of the reasons why we are still, knock wood, all healthy, because it's a huge effort, and they have just been great. So I think those are my highlights. And thank you to your leadership as well. I mean, just the items that we've brought to you, I know some of them are challenging and would have been great to have me or one of my team here to ask questions and to help you understand why we're bringing them to you despite the time. But really appreciate your support, and our executive leadership team too it's amazing that we are actually in some ways thriving through this. So that's it for me.
And I think Erin deserves credit, as you can clearly see her passion and her love for her
I
department.
can't hear you.
Jennifer, you're muted.
Appreciate your leadership as well. It's made a huge difference. Any questions for Erin?
Jennifer, you were muted. We didn't hear anything you said.
Seriously? Oh, I thought Erin was, I was complimenting Erin, so I thought she was actually trying to, it was just a thank you to Erin for her leadership as well. Just really appreciate it through this crisis. Just an exceptional professional and public works director, and clearly a passion for her department. So I wanted to thank her for that. And I'll give it to the mayor if anyone has questions.
Sorry. Could I comment?
Councilmember McAuliffe?
Thank you. Erin, I just want to tell you that was an outstanding report, and your team is very much appreciated. Please let them know.
Councilmember McNeil?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to echo appreciation for all that Public Works has done throughout this crisis for our community, keeping us going. It's exciting news to hear that the grant process is still taking place, and that we've ranked third and fourth on those projects. That's just fabulous news. The street sweeping, the things that I take notice when I'm out, how clean our city streets are. That's amazing. And I guess lastly, I just say that we're all doing a lot more work than we're typically used to. And to put this on top, to have this crisis on top of it, and still be able to perform, it's amazing. So hats off to you and everybody that is working so hard on our behalf.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Torrance?
Well, Erin, you know that, some of the city knows that some of my favorite heroes are the street sweepers, because you just see them working by themselves diligently, trying to make sure every nook and cranny is clean. And it struck me when I saw them go through, not that long ago, that our sewer grates for surface water were getting jammed up, which, I always think of being a fall and winter problem, but it's not. So as you were walking us through this, I was thinking all those details. Who would even have thought people would have found an alternative to toilet paper and think about flushing that? So I appreciate the minutia of you having, your whole crew having to stay a step ahead, thinking about how things could go wrong, and still find ways to soften things like no late fees, just keeping projects going where you can. And you've done a fantastic job finding silver linings and making it work for the city. So many, many thank you.
All right, looks like that's all of the questions and comments. I had a question just on one of my favorite Bothell projects, SR 522 Phase 3. So it looks like it's, you know, continuing on. Has it had any impact to the schedule or projected opening for that?
Not so far. They were one that kept going. There was one point where both WashDOT and Sound Transit were shutting down their projects, and so we started thinking that it would be odd for us to have the only one actually running. So we worked really closely with them to have them really justify why they needed to keep going. And you may know that there's a structural wall that's going up, and it was sort of prime time on that, and we were really concerned. And they provided a lot of really good information to justify continue going. And I think, you know, for a lot of projects, I think this timing was an inconvenience. But as you know, Mayor, like when you're working on transportation projects and an active roadway that has about 40,000 trips, so it's actually a little bit easier since the congestion hasn't been, and we haven't been impacting people as much either, because that's really a good way to get people fired up is the moment you don't pull the traffic control in time for the peak traffic hours, right? So I think that they're managing to carry on pretty well, and I'm proud of them too. For when I've driven past a couple of times, they are masked up and they're doing the right thing. We've required that of them, but they have really solid plans about how they're keeping their folks healthy too. So I think we're on track.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, I would have thought that with all the reduced traffic, it would have been a easier construction, at least offsetting how they had to modify their working conditions. But yeah, definitely less traffic, and it was pretty constrained in that early part with the wall work. So great. Hopefully that wraps up that major portion of it soon. So thanks again for your presentation, and thanks for all your staff and the leadership you've been providing. So then on to Nick, I believe.
All right. All right, can you hear me? All right, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council. I have to start by saying it's so good to see all of you. And I think it's probably fair to say, or maybe the understatement of the year, that a lot has changed since we last came before you talking about the exciting future of parks and programs in our community. Throughout it all, the one thing that hasn't changed is our community's love for parks and open spaces. Bothell's Parks and Trails continue to serve as a much-needed outlet for our community during these stressful times. Without a doubt, we've had to make some really tough and difficult decisions responding to this pandemic. Closing amenities down like our beloved playgrounds, sports courts, picnic shelters, restrooms, as well as canceling all of our traditional events like our 4th of July parade, our Music in the Park series, and other recreational programming, frankly, goes against our DNA. I can assure you, though, that we do not take these decisions lightly, and I cannot stress how much we are looking forward to the days ahead when we can fully open back up our parks for everyone to safely enjoy. It is important to note that we're not alone in making these tough decisions. Our neighboring cities around the region are canceling events and community programming for the foreseeable future. Regionally, we've been working with our local and state parks leaders to craft framework for the role that parks will play as we emerge from this crisis. At our weekly meetings, we are sharing ideas, public messaging, what has worked, what hasn't, and most importantly, planning for our future. Throughout this crisis, all members of our parks team have been focused on keeping Bothell's 400 acres of parklands safe for our residents to use. For regular operations, we have a small but amazing group of dedicated employees who in many ways are the invisible staff that you don't always see. Our field operations staff are the ones who show up early, mow the grass, blow the trails, keep our parks safe and clean. Under the leadership of our operations manager, Scott Purdy, and our maintenance leads, Aaron Milner and Jesse Ott, we have kept our field operations going from the beginning of this crisis. Our administrative staff are working from home with occasional visits to the office to complete essential work. Our administrative staff are focused on customer service, social media, public outreach, budgeting, scheduling, and processing invoices, as well as many other day-to-day activities related to parks and recreation. All park staff are operating individually with specifically assigned equipment following internal and external safety protocols and procedures. Temperature checks, masks, social distancing, and enhanced disinfecting procedures are practiced both internally and externally as we're interacting with each other and with our customers. At this point, no parks and recreation staff have come down with COVID-19. And this is kind of important to note because some agencies around us, some of our sister cities, have not been as lucky. As the chiefs mentioned last week, under our city manager's leadership, we were able to take some bold actions early, which allowed us to sustain operations in a safe manner. These early actions undoubtedly have helped slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community while protecting our staff from this highly contagious virus. We also made the difficult decision to cancel all of our beloved annual community events this summer, as well as our summer recreation classes and camps. Believe me when I say this, I recognize that this is extremely disappointing for all of you, our residents, and our team. Along with these difficult decisions, we have worked on a plan to significantly reduce our operating expenditures for the rest of the year to help address the city's ongoing budget issues. These belt-tightening measures, along with other ideas, will all come before you in June as we seek direction for the development of the city's 2021-2022 biennial budget. Now I kind of want to switch gears and talk a little bit about the governor's phased reopening plan and what it means for Bothell Parks moving forward. On May 5th, as part of the governor's phase 1 plan, we reopened the parking lot gates at Blythe, Centennial, and Cedar Grove Parks. We also reopened our North Creek sports field for drop-in and incidental use with no group gathering or team practices. In phase 2, we are considering opening our popular disc golf course at the Blythe Park. We're also looking at a limited opening of our restrooms at some of our more popular parks like Blythe Park, Cedar Grove Park, and the park at Bothell Landing. In phase 3, we're considering opening all the restrooms, the playgrounds, the sports courts, along with allowing limited reservations for picnic shelters and youth sports at our ball fields. All of these future openings will come with a healthy dose of safety protocols and rules for proper social distancing. The final phase, known as phase 4, is where we'll look to resume permitting for the large gatherings and special events. But as a disclaimer to all this, all of these reopenings are subject to change based on new information and guidance from the governor's office and our local health departments. We also have to consider the availability of resources and staffing, PPEs, sanitation supplies, and most importantly, our ability to make these amenities facilities safe for our public to use. Our team is also working on creative ways to engage our community in lieu of canceled community events like the annual 4th of July parade. These ideas include holding community decorating contests, producing a video of past parades, as well as placing chairs in front of households with signs honoring our first responders. Other programs like our pop-up dog park will also likely continue since we have all the supplies needed to construct it as soon as it is safe to do so. I want to close by saying people need local parks to exercise and have a safe place to go in times of crisis. As you've heard so many times during our public outreach over this past year, Bothell residents love parks. Our parks remain open. Our team's commitment to providing safe spaces for our community remains strong, and we so look forward to the day when we can once again open up all of our park amenities and bring back our special events for everyone to enjoy. So with that, that is my presentation, and I'm open for some questions.
Councilmember Dewar.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I have just some feedback, sorry. Thank you for that great update. So if I heard you correctly, we are planning on the pop-up dog park in phase 2? Do we know what phase was it?
You're on mute still, Nick.
So we don't know at this point because it's a matter of when we can get the resources and staffing available to do that. We've been focused on very basic operations. So, you know, that's just the mowing. The garbage has been crazy. I mean, people have been going out. They've been, you know, going to the takeout. But the garbage that we've seen in the parks is really peak season, mid-July use, and here we are only in May. So it's a matter of just getting the resources. We're a very small crew. We have, 10 operations folks, and, it's just a matter of when we can get those folks available to do that.
Do we know the location that we're planning on putting it in yet?
We don't yet because we had a couple ideas before, but since COVID, that's kind of changed our thinking process. So we'll be working on that and certainly getting that information out to the community as soon as we can.
And then one more question. The bridge at Bothell Landing, I don't know if that's you or Erin, but could we have an update on like the schedule for that and when we anticipate it being open? I mean, is it even going construction-wise right now?
They were suspended for a while. I think that they're just starting to resume. I believe the plan is to close the old bridge or the existing bridge in late August or September, but we will definitely get back to the council with dates. And we are working right now on what the outreach plan is going to be. We were going to do an event to graduate the old bridge. We want to make sure that folks know about the schedule so that they can go out and have their last photographs taken and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'll be watching for that information very soon.
Okay, thank you. A great presentation, Nick. I can feel your passion for the parks, and I agree with you. I think we all need that. It's such a mental human need to be out in nature, and especially in these times. So I'm right there with you. But thank you so much for the update, and hopefully we'll be back to normal sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Zorns.
Adding to the mental health of being in parks, especially where we have people who are in apartments and condos, they're starving to get. I mean, I can walk around my neighborhood, but and I'm dying to get into the park. So I can't imagine families who have small children who are in apartments needing to get out. So I'm glad that you're being mindful of that and no one's sick. That's a huge props. That's a huge feat. Dog park, I have a dog who is crawling out of her skin to run, and it's all your fault because the world of dog parks has been opened up to her, and she's dying. And I know she's not the only dog. I also, and when we were down at dog parks, I saw owners who were very good about picking up dog poop, and yet I know our crew had to be down there. There was still waste that had to be picked up and garbage cans that have to be emptied. And so any way that we can tap into volunteer forces to help encourage volunteer to lighten your load, I don't know how we do that, but as much as you can throw back onto the people to be responsible, please do, and don't be shy about it. And if there's ever, we don't have enough material for 2 dog parks, do we? It's just 1.
Well, we do if they're really small. So similar to what we did at the City Hall, that was 2 kind of really small outlays there. So we kind of think that we'd like to put it back into sort of the bigger space and see if we can open it up a little bit, if possible. But again, it's dependent upon, having the resources to do it, meaning staff, being able to safely do it. And, that's just going to take a little bit of time because we're kind of behind the 8 ball with other things that we have going on out there.
Right. I'm trying to think, I've only been once to the dog park at Marymore, and that's mixed dog sizes, right? That they have?
Yeah, Marymore's a very large regional dog park. It's actually run by a nonprofit in partnership with King County Parks. So, yeah, it's a little different there. I mean, it's definitely probably the premier in the region, for folks to go. And I know that a lot of people go there, from all over the Seattle area, greater Seattle area. So it really does kind of have that regional draw to it.
It does. I mean, it's got water features and all kinds of things. The one thing that I did notice in our dog parks is that very often little dogs had to come over and run with the big dogs. So and they don't always mix well, and yet it would still happen. So I don't know if that's something that we just give into and let them mix, or try to keep them separate. That's on you to decide. But it was an interesting phenomenon to see people with small dogs needing, the owners desperately needing to have their dogs socialize with bigger dogs. And they would still bring in their smaller dogs. One other thing, I love the idea, Aaron, you were talking about an event for closing the bridge, and I had a conversation with Jennifer on how to make it special for, graduating seniors. Could they tag the bridge or, do something memorial? I know we've got to think about shrapnel and what could fall into the water below, but I trust your brains to be more creative than mine, and whatever you come up for the closing of the bridge, I know is going to be great. So those are my only comments and observations. Keep doing what you're doing. It's really appreciated.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. So, Nick, as you all know, the parks are the heart of our community. This is where people want to go kind of walk, right, and families want to be together. And it's a sense of community as well. So I want to thank you. Each of them is important. I know how challenging this is with kind of thinking about restrooms and how we serve people there, but this is a very important part of our community, and I appreciate what your staff does.
Thank you.
Hey, Councilmember Agnew, I know we can't see you waving, but I wanted to give you an opportunity before I forgot, like I did on the last one.
That's okay. I just wanted to thank Nick and his staff. As my wife and I went out for our morning or daily walk today, we were walking right down Waynita, and there came the guy cleaning the street. I waved at him, we waved, and then we walked into Blythe, and they were mowing the yards. And I just want to thank Public Works, and I want to thank the Parks Department for all the diligent work they do for our city.
Thank you.
Councilmember Thompson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Nick and Aaron, thank you for. I just wanted to say thank you both for coming to talk tonight. Nick, I'm super impressed that you wore a tie. I almost didn't even recognize what that was. It's been so long since I saw one.
I needed some sense of normalcy, so good.
Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to echo the comments about thanking the Parks Department for all their hard work. Also like to just say thank you for acting, the city manager and all of you guys for acting early, getting us protected early so that we had an opportunity to potentially open and keep our community safe. it's amazing to be part of a community that has over 400 acres of forests, open space, dog parks. We're creating pop-up dog parks, getting the disc golfers back out there to play again. We're fortunate to have an 89-acre park in our backyard. And when I say in our backyard, I mean in the city of Bothell's backyard. Not too many communities around here have 89-acre parks in their community. It's amazing. It's special to be able to see all the people social distancing in that park and just watching them walk and huddle with their families and being able to get out and just enjoy what makes Bothell great, a sense of community. So, I guess I would say how can, a question for you, Nick, is how can we help the Parks Department by ensuring, we keep these spaces clean? How can we help you as a community?
Well, as you know, we hired Shelby Crow, who's our amazing event and volunteer coordinator. She's been working a lot during this sort of COVID time, putting together just the final pieces on our volunteer program, and we hope to roll that out. I mean, it's going to be part of the discussion that comes up in June, but we know that, we've seen some really amazing acts of kindness out there. We've seen our community come together, and you're absolutely right when you say the former Wayne Golf Course. I mean, the comment that I get, and probably more than any other comment about our parks right now, is that is the one space that I can go out with my family and practice safe social distancing and really enjoy that time, get out and hike those trails. I've been out there probably, a couple times a week and just up and down the trails. I've never seen so many people out there enjoying it, and it's fantastic to see. But we're going to be looking to engage our community to keep that going, and really lean in heavily on volunteer efforts and things like that as we move forward.
Great. Yeah. Keep us posted how we can help. I mean, even cleaning the forest up, having safe places for us to go. Lastly, I want to close with, I can't say how thrilled I am and happy I am that Bothell was able to open North Creek sports fields. While we might not be able to get our sports teams together, we're able to get our youth out. And, as a parent who has twin young boys, to be able to take them out there and be social distancing and training them and keeping them active and not on these electronic devices all day long, cooped up in the houses. Bothell is doing a great service to our community by allowing that on those sports fields. I'm sorry that I'm hearing conversations with other cities around us that are not allowing that, but I think the message is loud and clear. Those are assets that we have that can help our community stay fit and healthy, and especially youth today. They need those outlets. They need places to be able to go and recreate and stay active. And if we don't provide those spaces, I'm afraid that what we're going to see in the future is not a healthy county and is potentially some mental health issues that we don't see right now. So, again, thank you so much for opening those up. I look forward to continuing to stay safe and making sure those spaces are safe. We want to make sure people are cleaning up after themselves and not disturbing the bathrooms and things like that. So, again, we're doing great things. Thank you so much for all your hard work, especially the crews that are out there mowing the lawns, like Councilmember Agnew said, sweeping the streets. All those things matter, and they're all showing, and we need to make sure that we all celebrate the hard work that you guys are putting in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. I really appreciate your regional approach, coordinating with everyone so that we can just have a comprehensive opening of our facilities. COVID certainly doesn't pay attention to city boundaries, and so I think it's best so that some parks aren't open and some parks are, and then people gather or drive further to come to the ones that are. So I think a well-established regional approach is great. I have a question. So I know you mentioned some about the bathrooms and the different phases. Do you have an idea about the park equipment and how those might relate to the phases?
So, like you just mentioned, we are working on a regional committee in a sense. There's about 90 of us up and down the state of Washington as well as the state of Oregon talking about, how do we reopen? What does this look like? How do we emerge from this? And some of the things that are coming out are those common issues. When are people going to open up restrooms? When are people going to open up playgrounds? When are people going to do the picnic shelters, the other things? We're talking about that, in small groups and large groups. We're meeting twice a week. We're trying to figure that process out. The key is we want to do so that we can do it in a safe manner, that we can not only protect our community, but also protect our staff and clean these areas. I'll be honest with you, the playgrounds are very, very difficult to clean, to sanitize. They have a lot of high-touch surfaces. The restrooms are the same. I mean, we have a lot of folks going in. The one advantage we have in restrooms is we can, spray them down similar to what the chiefs were talking about last week with spraying down vehicles. We can spray down those and let them sit and not necessarily touch everything. But when you get out into the playgrounds, it's a little bit different. So for the playgrounds, it's looking more like, phase 3, possibly phase 4, but that's really what the region's doing. Shortly, within the next couple of weeks, I will likely have a master list of every single agency around us when they're opening in all the different phases. And I can certainly share that with Jennifer, and she can share that with you.
That'd be great. I think, part of the angst that people have is just the uncertainty, but I think if we can, have them see the light at the end of the tunnel here and a path forward, I think that just really helps with people's mindset, as well as the weather improving day by day. So I feel very hopeful that we keep progressing in just a nice, steady manner. Yeah, I'm really excited for the pop-up dog park to come back. I think when the last one was closed or, was out, my puppy was still too young to go socialize, but now he's rip-roaring, ready to get out there and meet all sorts of new friends out there. So can't wait for that. And thanks for everything that you and your staff have been doing.
Thank you.
All right, so just a little bit of a relation to our COVID response for the city. We did have a couple meetings in March that we didn't have, and our June is very packed, and most likely our July as well. So I've been speaking with the city manager about having or using the first week in August to have an additional meeting to try and claw back some of the work that we've been doing. So I just wanted to see what kind of appetite there was. I know a lot of people have put on hold any vacations or plans, so it's not the usual summer or the usual August. So I just wanted to put it out there what I was thinking about now and see if anyone has any strong opinions one way or the other. Councilmember Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor. No objection at all. We need to do our job and get the work done. So if we need more time, we should take it.
All right. Councilmember Dewar?
I agree.
All right, not seeing a lot of other strong opinions, so I think we'll just look at how the agendas play out and use that as a potential spot to be able to keep the momentum going through the summer and finish strong with that the first week in August. So council committee reports. Does anyone have a report they'd like to provide? Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to give a quick update on our PIC meeting we had a PIC meeting last week. Thank Councilmember Agnew for joining that virtual meeting. First time having a PIC meeting virtually. Very robust discussion around the proposed King County rate fee increases for the solid waste division. Not sure if we've taken a stance on that or not, but there's talk about increasing a 4.5 increase. Majority of the cities around the table are not in support of any increases at this time throughout King County. So the position, SCA just kind of took a position of not supporting any increases at this time. The SCA supported the Association of Washington Cities, AWC, COVID-19 Public Health Emergency Response and Relief City Legislative Priorities, which stems around financial support for cities, fiscal flexibility, regulatory relief, city-owned utility support, and economic stimulus items as well. So the SCA took a stance on supporting that as well. We did a proclamation, so I want to thank the city of Bothell for doing the proclamation that we did today. The proclamation that we did today actually has a much greater meaning as well, and that it is the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May 2020. So to do that proclamation this month is pretty special. So hats off to that. We did do SCA did take a stance on doing the same proclamation throughout all of the cities within King County. Then I want to also thank Deanna Dawson and the SCA for all of the COVID-19 impact and response updates that they do on a regular basis. It's a regional approach that we work on when we have issues like this, the COVID issue that's impacting all of our communities, and having those updates and learning what other cities are doing. Again, our city managers giving updates and letting SCA officials know, or the FCA leadership know what's going on within our community. The mayor, I believe, is attending North End Mayor's meetings and letting other mayors know what we're doing in the city of Bothell. That approach is similar to what our Parks Director just spoke about and how he's working not only regionally but with other states. I think it's important that we have a voice sitting at the table, and I think that we're doing a fabulous job of that right now. So I want to thank the Parks Director, Mayor, and the City Manager for their leadership in making sure that our voices are heard from Bothell here around the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Leonhardt.
Sorry to break in. I just wanted to mention to council that we're working to bring an item to you on June 9th about the King County solid waste rate proposal. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McAuliffe.
Okay, thank you. So I think there's two important things that I have participated in, and that was the Chamber of Commerce meeting with people talking about how they would like to open Main Street for the restaurants. And thank you, Davina, because I know you brought this forward. But pretty much everyone at the chamber meeting, there was a lot of people, maybe 20, wanted to say, we want to support local businesses. Whatever restaurants need, we want to support them. So I know that City Manager Jennifer Phillips is moving forward with this. I hope we can move forward with it because it's very important to our restaurants surviving. So the Lion's Den has closed down now. They're not coming back. And I'm hoping that we don't see more of that in the city. Also, Jennifer, you and I talked about doing something that we need to change the ordinance for parking lots, because up in Canyon Park, in Snohomish County, there are restaurants that need to use their parking lots. So that's another issue we need to address as well. I really appreciate the fact that everybody's trying to do the best we can for our businesses. This is a very difficult time. So we need to do our best, and whatever we can do to help support them, yes, we should. Thank you so much.
All right, anyone else with any committee reports? All right, thank you very much. City Clerk, visitor comments?
Yes, we had one from Benjamin Menke, which was forwarded to all the council members, and he just wanted to highlight the good work of the Canyon Hills Community Church Food Bank.
Great, thank you very much. All right, on to our consent agenda. I will need a motion from the council. Councilmember McNeil,
So move the consent agenda.
Councilmember Dewar.
I second.
All right, great. We have the motion from Councilmember McNeil with the second from Councilmember Dewar. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, City Clerk.
Please say yay or nay when I call your name. Deputy Mayor Zorns,
Yay.
Councilmember Thompson,
Yay.
Councilmember McAuliffe, Councilmember McAuliffe, can you repeat that?
I'm sorry. Hold on.
Can you give me a thumbs up if you're yay or a thumbs down if you're nay? We can't hear you. Okay, she's a yes. Mayor Olson,
Yay.
Councilmember McNeil, he's a yes.
Yay.
Councilmember Dorr,
Yay.
and Councilmember Agnew.
Yay.
Passes 7-0.
All right, thank you, everyone. So there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 7:16. Thank you, everyone. Great to see everyone again.